Hey, thanks for tuning in. I have a fantastic surprise for you guys today. We've got Brandon Reed, host of Real Estate for the Rest of Us podcast. So, Brandon, I want to thank you so much for coming on to help everybody out with trying to figure out, with all of these real estate questions, how do I make sense of it? Where do I get started?
You bet,
Uh,
Andy. Glad to be here for sure.
so, before we get started, Brandon, maybe tell us a little background for yourself. What kind of got you started in the real estate game?
Yeah, so real estate for me was, I work a W-2 job. I work at Disney, and I don't plan to leave anytime soon. If I do leave there, I'll work another job. I don't want to do real estate full time, but I knew we needed to do something for our family that would set us up with a strong financial foundation. At least get the ball rolling. We just had our first kid, but we started kind of digging in before we had our first kid, so we could get some momentum before life started picking up. And we knew we wanted to, there was few different areas that we looked into for, okay, how do we start building that financial foundation? Real estate just made sense for our family for several different reasons. So that's where we started kind of putting most of the time. I mean, I do some in the market as well, and there's other areas I'm interested in, but real estate is kind of where we're putting most all of our effort right now to start thinking long term for retirement. So that's how it started, was just like, how can we build a financial foundation that sets us up for success long term, and real estate just made sense.
Now, a lot of people that I come in contact with, this is one of the things that's always on top of their mind is it's like, hey, I heard somebody that did this. I saw somebody else that did this. Dean Graziosi says that we can do this and you can make tons
Yeah,
of money.
yeah,
But, you're seeing deals that are millions of dollars that people are
yeah.
doing. How did you actually get started of saving up with that? Did you just continue to save up in a little side fund until you had enough to where you could go do your first deal?
Yeah, so this may or may not surprise you. With real estate for the rest of us, it's very much well, what we found is most of our listeners are earlier in their real estate journeys. They're younger investors or beginning investors, either that or they're in one area of real estate and they're interested in getting started in another. So they are new in another area of real estate. And so I ask the dumb questions. I ask the very beginning questions to understand, hey, all those people out there who don't have anybody to ask, or they don't know the questions to ask. Let me try to kind of come up with some of those and get answers from the experts. And I'm asking the dumb questions not because I'm trying to like dumb myself down, but because truly I don't know yet. Like, I'm very, very young in my investing career. We've been doing it for a while, gosh, almost maybe 4 years now or so, but we're doing it at a slower pace than if we were doing it full time, because I'm working a regular job. But so we haven't done our first deal. So we're still actively looking, and we are just in the process. We close in like a couple weeks of our first deal. It's a house hack. We're going to move into it, flip it over a year, and then move out. So it'll be a buy and hold investment property, but we're using an FHA, just residential loan, to get in. So that answers your question. The way we were even able to get to this first property, if it all turns out, is we had to do a residential loan. We don't have the cash. We don't have 20% down, but we do have 3.5% down. And like, so that's one way to do it, is to say, well, let's just live in our investment property then, because you obviously can't do an FHA loan or USDA loan on something that you're buying for an investment property, but you can in a property you're going to live in. And the conditions of the loan, so you have to be there for a year. So we're still young enough in our family. We have one kid, and so we're just like, let's just do it. Let's live in a kind of a crappy house. We'll put some sweat equity in it over a year. Paint things, tear down the cabinets, do some things we can do ourselves, put new sinks in, little stuff like that. That over the year, then we'll just move out and start renting it. So there's so many ways, of course, to get involved in real estate. And you're right, Andy. A lot of times it's like, oh, I saw somebody else do that. And the majority of the time, I found with real estate investors, and I'm sure it's like this in other areas that deal with money, but I'm only familiar with real estate, that people lie when it comes to how successful they are or were when they first started. And it's hard to sift through that. I don't mean to be a pessimist, but when you hear from people, yeah, I got started. Oh, it was so easy. And this is how much I cash flowed every month. You have to really dig into those numbers and really think critically about, like, okay, did you really buy your first property and cash flow $600 every month? Because I'm finding nothing out there that gets me that kind of cash. But if you dig in, it's like, well, okay, yes. If it's like rent minus mortgage, it might be 600, but you have, maintenance, you have capex, you have things, real expenses you have to consider. So as you start kind of digging into that, and that's what hopefully I do with some of my show, is to kind of digest some of that in a different way and make it more approachable and unintimidating, to say, okay, if you're getting a figure of 600, then you're like, cool, wow, $600. I could use $600 a month. Let me get online. Let me start doing some research. And you're going through numbers and you're like, I can find nothing. I guess my market's not right for this. I can't get $600 a month. So then you move on. Instead saying like, well, no, let's really break that down. That's this minus this. You have to consider these other things. And gosh, if you can take if you can be black by $150 a month, go for it. Like, do the deal and try to move forward and get your investing career going. So we started off by it took a while to kind of understand that, get my head around that, say, okay, we can't find any of what these home runs that people are talking about. So let's move on. Let's try another deal, because this one is not this home run. And it took us a while to really get our heads around, okay, we're not going to find that, because whether that actually happened or not, whether that was truth or not, I don't know, but we're not going to find that. So let's just look for something that is wise and solid, may not be a home run. And that's kind of, it took us a couple years to get our heads around that, search for that kind of property, and find it for what might be our first deal here in a little bit.
Yeah, and I know from your episodes, one of your recent ones that came out as sharing some unique ways to be able to actually finance that first property.
Mm-hmm.
And to your point, you were saying, hey, right now we've been saving, looking for that deal, but we don't have a large down payment to go put
Right.
down on an actual rental or second property. So because of that, we have to be more creative in the way that we're doing that.
Yep.
I know one of the ways that a lot of people don't think of is the fact of utilizing their 401k to actually help out with going and buying properties like this. Now, there's a
Yep.
lot of limitations that come with it,
Yep.
but we see that that's one of the easy ways that people can get started with that, is being able to use loans or options available within your 401k, not to take a withdrawal. We
Right.
don't want to
Exactly.
beat you up on taxes and
Yep.
have this withdrawal. We want to utilize the compounding that's in that account. So if that's something that people are looking for and you have questions on it, that's definitely an option, but you want to make sure you do it the right way.
Yep.
Um,
So Andy, it's funny. Just the other episode, oh, I don't know, maybe 2 or 3 ago, I was talking to a gentleman called Bernardo, named Bernardo Charles, and he was talking through that. That's how he finances property. And Andy, I've gone to so many different classes. I'm a part of our real estate association here. I go to the seminars, and I hear using retirement accounts to invest in properties. And a lot of times, it's in a context of the IRA and how to then use the tax benefits and tax sheltering of that and move money in and out of it. And I don't have an IRA. I only have a 401k, and it just all felt really irrelevant to me, and it sounded really complicated, frankly. And maybe when we have 6, 10 properties, maybe we can start. But anyways, I didn't even know that was a thing, to use your 401k. And you heard me live, like, hear that on the podcast. I was like, you used what? How? And he's like, no, dude, I think I'd heard it at some point, oh, 401k, but I was like, oh, I'm not touching my 401k. I always hear how there's penalties, and I don't want to be unwise with that. We only put enough in. We try to take as much money as we can home, because we know we're going to be investing it, using it wisely, but we don't want to be dumb with our 401k because Disney matches. So we put as much in to get that free money from Disney. But still, that's added up over like the 6 years I've been at Disney or whatever. And I have about 40 grand in there. And I was like, okay, wait, what? Like, you can do what? So I started looking into it. And it's so funny that you're even mentioning it, because 2 days ago, we're looking for, okay, where's the wisest way to get our down payment? We put a lot in the market when coronavirus tanked everything, and we have a lot of gains we can yet realize. And I was like, I don't
yep.
want to pull out, because man, we have a lot we could still do. So anyways, I called our Fidelity that Disney uses, and I start talking through it. And I just, like, 2 days ago, got off the phone and I told my wife, I was like, we had access to, like, 12 grand or whatever we ended up having. We had access to that cash. It's
Mhm.
crazy. And again, you have to be wise. It's not just cash to spend. We will, as soon as we realize the gains from the market, I'm just going to then pay back into my 401k. I just want to wait for that. And so, there's some trade-offs and things, but we had access to that. I mean, literally, it's direct deposit in 3 days. It's going to be in my account. I couldn't believe it. So in real time, I was learning that on the episode. That's absolutely a good way. If you weigh the pros and cons, be educated about it, know what you're doing. But it's a really solid way, if you have some money in there, to actually, get going on your investing.
Yeah, we see that that's definitely there as a resource. We just always, if any of our clients that we're working with, we always want to make sure that we're going step by step through of what are the other dominoes that fall if we dip into that bucket.
It's a good way to say
And
it.
and the biggest thing that happens is we interrupt the compounding on the money.
Yep.
So
Yep.
there are ways, there are creative solutions where you can be saving, pull money out from that account and not
Mhm.
interrupt the compounding, but it
Mm,
has to be done specifically.
mm,
And if done incorrectly, then you can wind up messing everything up. But
yeah.
the 401k is one of the hidden resources that a lot of people
Yeah.
have. To your point, you hear about it that you have a self-directed IRA that you can
Yep.
put into real estate. People talk about that all the time. But if you're still working at your job where you've saved this money, and you're not over 59 and a half, your options of moving that money are fairly limited. So
Mm-hmm.
this is a way that you can tap into that and still realize your dreams of wanting to go out and do something in real estate.
Yeah.
So you're in the process. You've been interviewing now for a while. As far as going through, what's been the biggest takeaway for you with looking at real estate as a way to produce income for the future?
Um, so I would say that what's most valuable for us, I wrote it down once. I said, all right, I made a Evernote note. I was like, why are we doing this? Why are we investing in real estate? As it's gotten harder and harder, it's taken longer and longer to do our first deal. I wanted to get on paper, I guess, just for myself, to keep myself motivated. What the heck are we doing and why is it valuable? Let me try to remember some of those things. One of them was the ability to leverage our money. We just don't have much now, but to be able to control a $200,000 asset with 10 grand, there's just not much out there that you can do that with. And that felt really powerful to me. There's all sorts of course, tax benefits. America loves homeowners and loves investors in a lot of ways, as we clean up communities and help people get out of difficult situations. Sometimes we feels like investors use that, and can be pretty sleazy. And I find that I have to fight through that a lot as I talk to potential sellers. That you can't come out right out of the gate with it, or else it just looks like a cover. But to somehow say I'm not like the 30 other investors you've talked to in the last year as you've been dealing with foreclosure, because it's tough and people can really be underhanded about it. But if you act with integrity, and you are ethical about it, I really do believe that we as investors do help people. But anyways, the tax sheltering capabilities is powerful. Um, for us, so to be able to, because we're in it for the long term, appreciation is huge. So for me to be able to say, I can take whatever, I'll just use fake numbers. I can take 10 grand, control a $200,000 asset. And by the time my 1-year-old son is 18 and graduating from college, that $200,000 asset, I could have taken 10 grand. And if we do a 15-year mortgage, we can pay that off. I mean, if we have enough margin, which is hard to do, I don't mean to paint any unrealistic picture. You got to find a good property cheap enough. But if you can do a 15-year mortgage, you can have a, I don't know, $280,000 asset that you started with 10 grand with. You put it, you just started paying it. If you have a W-2 job, which I'm fortunate enough to have, then we can dump all of our cash flow right back into the asset. By the time he graduates and needs to go to college, we have a real asset. I mean, real estate is so solid, so consistently solid, and it's an essential resource and something that I feel confident about in 18 years will still be needed, and we can have that for my son's, college fund. So the appreciation is also, if you're in it for the buy and hold and long term, is also really powerful. Those are a couple of things I can think about.
Yeah, I mean, you hit on a lot within that as far as people saying, "Hey, I get the tax benefits here because I've got this rental property. I can depreciate things. I can
Yep,
help offset some of my tax problems that maybe I've
exactly.
created over the years."
Hmm.
Being able to use that you can cash flow for other things, and if you do
Yep,
your mortgages in smart ways, to where you maximize how much is hitting your pocket, minimize how much is hitting the bank, so that you're in
yep,
liquid access and control of your money. Fantastic.
yep,
I've had clients that 30, I think now they've been doing real estate investing for about 35 years. I think they're up to 7 or 8 properties.
yep.
All of those owned outright because they did it in a way where they said, listen, we don't move on to the next until the first one is paid for.
Oh, man, that's
Um,
so powerful
and then we use
to
that
have
to
paid off
leverage.
properties,
Yeah.
man, to have paid off. I mean, it just gets exponential what comes back. Yeah.
So now that they've got this beautiful cash flow,
Hmm.
and with their jobs, both of them were interrupted during all of the COVID-19
Wow.
crisis.
Yep.
They were lucky enough to be right on the tail end. They were right at retirement. We still
Okay.
knew that they had enough to last for their lifetime, but it was one of those that it was like, hey, those paychecks are gone.
Yep. Yep.
What do we do now? And we were
Yep.
able to test that and say, hey, no, you still have 100% chance your money's going to last until 90. You're not going to run out. You can still do all the things that you want to do. So it
Hmm.
was one of those, that confidence of its life uninterrupted was beautiful.
Amazing. Yeah, that's
Um,
really, really amazing.
and you
That's
you
awesome.
typically only see that with passive investments.
Yep. Yep.
When you can have something that's going to pay you a check regardless of what you do.
Hmm.
If I don't show up at my job, I don't get
Yeah.
paid.
Right. Right.
So that's
Exactly.
that's one of those things. We want to make sure that we have something that's paying me, no matter if I'm here, I'm in Greece, I'm in
Yep.
California, I'm wherever I want to be. That paycheck continues to come.
Yeah, and
Uh,
real estate, the strategy of real estate, to kind of almost answer in another way your question before, gives us the flexibility to be. As COVID-19 hit, and we weren't sure if I was going to be furloughed, a lot of people at Disney were, and I was remotivated to, man, it's important what we're doing to be setting something up to provide passive income if needed, right? So we can do two different things. We can, as I work my W-2, we can take all the cash flow and dump it all back into the asset to pay that off quicker and start realizing those gains that your clients are more quickly. Or if needed, if I lose my job, if I'm furloughed, if whatever, we can start taking some of that cash flow. If we set up a 30-year mortgage, we just set up a 15-year paying schedule, and we're overpaying every month, then we can just take some of that for ourselves and help offset whatever the financial hardship is that we're. So that's something else that uniquely that real estate does that is great, is you can pay off a longer mortgage in a shorter schedule, but then take back that income if you need it. So.
Yeah, it's definitely there for you.
Mhm.
Anytime that you can have access and control of your money is
Yep.
beneficial. So
Yep.
that's great. So what have you seen through or heard through all of your interviews as the biggest challenge for somebody first getting started in real estate investing?
Yeah, I think there's two things. It's a really good question, and one I ask all of my people that come on the show, all my guests, but I haven't really compiled for myself. Well, what do most people say? But let me try to do that here in real time. I think that the two biggest things I would say is, number one, a lack of information. So people getting started, they read the couple articles, maybe they go to one seminar, and again, it's tough to weed through the people that are being untruthful to get people motivated and to get people in it. And so if you just take that and roll with it and don't really do your research, you can get into a sticky situation quickly. So I think that people will hear something, they get really, really fired up. And if they have the opportunity to get into a property early or quickly without doing enough research, that can be really dangerous. And so I think you have to be educated. And then the second piece to that is the opposite side of it, and to of course, as with any investment, as with moving forward with anything in life, analysis paralysis can be something that creeps in. And with real estate, because there's 100 different strategies or more is legitimate ways to make money in real estate, people freeze because they go, okay, I could wholesale, oh, I could do lease purchases, oh, I could buy and hold. There's so many different things they could do, they don't know where to start. And so they say, let me be wise about this. Let me gather a lot of information before I move forward, because I don't want to do the other thing. I don't want to get all excited about this and step into something unwisely. And so they just learn and they learn and they learn and they never take action. I think it's important to do both. I lean on the more analysis side, so I have to constantly tell myself, move forward, Brandon. But I also, yeah, but I don't just sit in that. I do say, I know we have to move forward and there has to be risk involved. Real estate, just as any investment, isn't riskless. And so just make sure you're taking wise and educated risks. And so I think the biggest problem is twofold. And you can go extreme to one way or extreme to the other, but really it all has to do about the level of education that you've given yourself. Either you can do too little or you can do too much. There's a balance there of when to take action, but just do it wisely.
I think that's very well put. We see that real estate or passive investments fit in as the part of a bigger puzzle. So you have not only the income that's coming from this, you have your investments, like you mentioned that for yourself, you're utilizing those plans at work.
Hmm.
But we want to make sure how all of that comes together. So that's one of the biggest things that we see is not making decisions in a vacuum.
Yeah,
So if you're considering that you're looking at real estate and how to invest and you have questions about it, you need to seek out the advice of somebody that can help you out with this.
yeah,
Whether it's us or somebody like us, you want to make sure that you have an advisor that can help guide you through what else is going to be affected by doing this. Are you going to be positive or
absolutely,
negative cash flow? Can you
absolutely.
afford this property if somebody doesn't pay rent?
Yeah,
So that's one of the
absolutely.
huge things what we've went through that we've walked through in these last few months. You have, it
Hmm.
doesn't matter if it's residential, commercial, whatever. A lot of people, their income that they were getting from properties was cut in half. So
Yeah,
you need to be
yeah,
prepared and have money on the side the same way you treat it personally, that you're able to pay your bills and have that cash that you need on the side for 3 to 6 months of income. You need it for something like this as well.
yep,
Um,
absolutely.
Brandon, I appreciate your time to be able to connect and share some of your insights as far as somebody that's wanting to get started with real estate investing.
Yeah.
If somebody's wanting to pick up more information with this or listen to some back episodes that you have and be notified of all your new ones, where can they find this information?
Yeah, thanks for asking, Andy. They can go to realestatefortherestofus.com. On there, we'll have links to all the most popular podcast platforms. You can go. I mean, if you use a podcast platform, you can just type that into the search bar and you'll go and find it. And make sure you subscribe. That's the only way you will get notified is if you actually subscribe. And then the website, every time we post a new episode, we also post a blog post. And so you can go on there. You can listen directly on the site if you don't want to use a podcast player, or there's links to all the podcast players. So yeah, look at realestatefortherestofus.com is a great launching point, and then you can go from there.
And do you put anything out on social media as far as Facebook, Instagram, anything with
Yeah,
that tied to it?
yeah, definitely. So we have a Facebook page. So real estate for the rest of us. Just type that in, will come up, and just like or follow us there, and you'll get notified of it because we do post for every new episode.
Fantastic. Well, Brandon, thanks so much for your time being able to share with our uh, clients, with those of
Of
you that
course.
aren't clients with us. We hope that this has helped you out with some information to help you get started in real estate investing if that's important to you.
Absolutely. And let me also say that if you are interested in real estate and don't know where to get started and want an unintimidating and approachable way to do that, you listen to some of the episodes and that interests you. And if you want to connect with any one of my guests individually, reach out to me. I would love to make the connection. If you're like, man, I'm really interested in what 1031 exchanges can do as I grow my portfolio, I'll connect you with Tom Gustafson, who I had on the show, and would love to talk to you. So I have a lot of people who are actually provide real estate services and would be anxious to talk to you and have a new client and get you started. So just let me know.
Fantastic. Thanks so much for that resource.